Good morning. This is Friday of Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I am Pastor Mark Baze. Really excited. Today is an interesting day. We've got a new pope. I'm going to talk about it because, of course, that's what you want. You want to hear me talking about it and giving my thoughts. We're also going to be talking briefly about a TV show because I feel like I have to, because it seems to be a major topic on just about every single political, cultural show. And hey, you know what? We dive into it because culture and politics affects the faith, the family, and the fellowship. It impacts how we live. So I'm going to talk about it. And then we're going to briefly discuss, looks like Trump's getting some deals, some amazing deals going on with some countries, and kind of what I said before. I was like, I don't know. How about we just wait and see? Let the guy do what he's trying to do here. And so that's going to be the bulk of it. And then at the very end, I'm going to finally try to get around to responding to Dr. Randy White, his ridiculous claims that he made on his show the other day. And so we're gonna have a little bit of fun with our friend, Dr. Randy White. Great to have all of you on with us this morning. Really appreciate each and every one of you. All right, so here we go. We do have a new pope. I'm just going to go ahead and use the Daily Wire's insert on it, but you can find just about anything that you want to. So let's see here. Where's their main one to introduce all the things? I guess this is going to be the one right here. So here you go. Well, that's just saying he's celebrating his first Mass. But yeah, we can go ahead and use this one. So new Pope Leo the 14th, celebrates his first Mass and talks about what all he has to say there. Pope Leo the 14th, he is quite interesting. Of course, most of you by now have already heard. He is the very first American Pope, at least dual citizenship. I think he has dual citizenship in Peru. And so what do we know about him? That's the big question, right? One reason why I was trying to find the article prior to this, and I thought that I had a quick link to that article, but apparently I don't for whatever reason. What everybody's wondering, of course, is what is he going to be like? Is he going to be Pope Francis 2.0? Is he going to be a shift? What are we expecting? What are we waiting to hear, okay? So let's just briefly talk about what little we do know. So he's American-born. He was Cardinal Robert Prevost. That's how I'm going to pronounce his name. And he spent quite a bit of time in Peru. Like I said, I think he has dual citizenship. So he was born in America, spent a lot of time, though, in South America. So you kind of already have a little bit of ties there with Pope Francis, because Pope Francis was South American. And now he has been appointed. He's 69 years old, which in Pope age is decently young from what most people seem to be saying. So it looks like he may be Pope for quite a while, 15, 20 years. How old was Pope Francis when he died? He was 88, so 19 years if he lives to be the same age as Pope Francis. And he was kind of unexpected. He wasn't one of the names being floated around, but apparently, I don't know. I don't know how the dynamics work, and who knows how the dynamics work in the College of Cardinals, the conclave, when they're all voting and how all that works and goes about. So, yeah, the big question is, what is he going to be like? Is this going to be a case of more of the same, which is some progressive leaning ideas, even some language that kind of almost undermines Catholicism to some degree? Or is this going to be a step in more traditional directions. And we've talked about the dynamics going on with Catholicism right now. The American, culture of Catholicism is somewhat strong right now. You're seeing an increase in attendance, and it's trending more towards traditional type values. So being much more outspoken, conservative values. There's the interest in the Latin Mass, which I'm not an expert on it, but it's a pretty big statement as far as like how they're going to do things, being more traditional. And we talked about before the disconnect that may be in existence between the Vatican and maybe European Catholicism in other countries, compared to what we're seeing here in America. Now, you know me, it does not affect me one way or the other as far as the Pope himself, because I don't care. I don't think that he is the high priest here on earth, whatever terminology you want to use. He has no authority over me. And I think that Catholicism's confused, believing that they have the kingdom authority of heaven here on earth and that it's their job to build the kingdom. And there's certain requirements or sacraments that one must part. I reject the whole Catholic doctrine because I think most of it's derived from external writings and philosophy and history, pseudo-history even, and not based upon Scripture itself. So I don't have a dog in the fight concerning the Pope as far as how that affects my life personally. But on another hand, though, there is an influence that the Pope has, because Catholicism is a major world religion. I mean, it really is quite different from what we would view as Christianity to be true. So, I mean, you really could define it as its own religion. Significant religion, does affect society, does affect America. And so if the Pope is a raging leftist, I care. I would much rather have, for the sake of political matters and everything else, I would much prefer to have a conservative Pope. So I think you should be interested. I think you should care what direction Catholicism goes. With all of that being said, I haven't done a whole lot of reading, but I've done a lot of listening, and I've read a few articles on the Pope. Pope Leo XIV, now as he's called, I guess named himself after Pope Leo, and the one before him was obviously the 13th. And from what I've come to learn, primarily listening to Michael Knowles, Pope Leo XIII was considered by many to be a very traditionalist, conservative pope, very outspoken against communism, things like that. And he died right around the turn from the 19th to 20th century, right, late 1800s. And so there are some, like Michael Knowles and others, who are reading that as a good sign. He's trying to communicate that he wants to be a more traditional type pope. And from what I've understood, I've listened to a few things. I don't understand all of the Catholic tradition and whatnot, but he's already doing some things differently than what Pope Francis did. So apparently Pope Francis, like there were certain, I don't know if there was some Pope clothing or different things that he just didn't traditionally want to wear for whatever reason. You know, you think about it, he didn't live in the Vatican, I guess. He lived in a smaller house or whatever. He didn't ride in the Pope mobile. He rode around in some Fiats or whatever, from what I understand. He was a break from the norm, right? The tradition of how things have gone. So now, here's Pope Leo XIV. He's wearing the more traditional garb, I guess, that maybe you would use the terminology. And I guess he's going to be getting back to more a sense of normalcy as far as the Pope is concerned and how he conducts himself, presents himself. Now, here's the areas of which I am concerned for Catholicism. He's from Chicago. That's where he's from. Chicago is not necessarily known to be the great hub of conservative values. Now, he is Catholic cardinal, so maybe there's something there that would hopefully mean he's not just a typical I don't know, Chicago Democrat. Now, here's what's really interesting. Charlie Kirk over at Turning Point USA, I don't know if you've heard of Charlie Kirk. You should look into him. He's quite interesting. Maybe single-handedly won Arizona for Trump. He did reach into the voting, or I guess I should say, political affiliation registrations, because, hey, this is the first American Pope, and he was registered, surprisingly, Pope Leo the 14th, was a registered Republican, or is a registered Republican. That's the reporting. Now, sometimes you got to be careful about what you initially hear, but that's what they're saying. Now, here's the thing. That doesn't mean much. I mean, it's not like, let's see. I'm doing a little bit of research really quick, okay? So I'm pretty sure. I don't know, okay? I don't know what she is today, but I'll remind you, Liz Cheney has been a long time Republican, okay? Liz Cheney is no one that we would consider conservative in any other means than maybe being interested in tax cuts to certain businesses. She is in essentially all aspects a Democrat, Liz Cheney. And so being a Republican, as far as registered Republican, doesn't mean anything, okay? It doesn't. So for the conservatives, the conservative Catholics who are wanting to celebrate, yeah, he took the name Pope Leo the 14th after Pope Leo the 13th, who was a very traditional conservative Catholic Pope. Yay, he's registered Republican. Guys, so if that's true, which seems to be the case, that doesn't mean anything. Your party registration is not a guarantee of values, okay? There's a lot of people in Oklahoma, not so much anymore, but used to they were all registered Democrat, but voted Republican because everybody in Oklahoma was registered Democrat. So if you wanted to vote in local elections, guess what? You had to be a Democrat, even though your values didn't necessarily align. It's really hard to know what that means, his Republican registration. Now, the areas in which that one should be concerned, Pope Leo the 14th, before he was Pope, back when he was just Cardinal Pravat, he criticized J.D. Vance. You'll recall J.D. Vance received a little bit of, I don't know, conflict from the media, of course, because he was supporting Trump's position on strict immigration enforcement. And J.D. Vance outlined a very realistic and understandable concept that there's an order of love and care, essentially, and that you have first and foremost an obligation to those of your household, your community, country, and then you go beyond the world. And J.D. Vance's point was, hey, listen, we've got people in our communities who are in need, and yet we're trying to help others who are not even our neighbor, right? In the sense of our literal neighbor right next to us, okay? Our communities are in trouble, and yet we're trying to take in all the world's migrants. How is that even a realistic thing? We've got to have an order of how we meet people's needs. And this, at the time, Pope Leo XIV, who was a cardinal, was very critical of J.D. Vance. He's been very critical of Trump's immigration policies. It seems to be a popular thing right now with popes and whatnot, being outspoken on American politics and immigration and all of those things, even though I'm pretty sure the Vatican has a pretty nice wall around it with plenty of security. It's always funny how that works, you know. So, a lot of it's speculation. We don't know exactly. Here's my speculation. Okay, you ready? Feel free to mark it down, episode 296, at the 15-minute mark. Just about like with anybody, like even a president for the most part, it's often your first days are your best days. it's very possible, and I would even say likely, that Pope Leo XIV is going to be viewed as fondly by traditional Catholics right now in this moment than he's probably going to be at any point in the future, okay? He does not come across to me, based upon some of his comments, as anyone who is going to be much different than what Pope Francis was. I just don't think so, okay? I don't expect it. I don't think he's going to really bring the Vatican and Catholicism in areas that are heavily influenced by the Pope, to whatever degree he influences Catholic churches, some probably more than others. I don't think that there's going to be a major change, just my speculation. Probably going to say some things that the left is going to like, kind of like Pope Francis. Ever so often, he'll speak out against restricting immigration, enforcing borders. He'll probably, and there is some reports that he's been a little bit shady on LGBTQ stuff, and he'll probably say some things every now and then along those lines. And so it's a weird thing. The Catholic Pope, he's going to hold to certain things, most likely. Here's what's not going to happen, okay? I am willing to say, here's the things that won't happen. The things that won't happen is, first of all, he's not the Antichrist, okay? I'm seeing a bunch of silly stuff on X.com, just X, who says .com anymore, X and other places like, oh, here it is, the first American Pope. You know what that means? This is the Antichrist, okay? The Antichrist is the American Pope because it's the most powerful nation. And finally, here's the first one. He's, first of all, not the Antichrist, okay? He's not going to bring in the tribulation. Now, tribulation could come. The rapture could happen any time, and then we'll have 7 years of tribulation to follow. But it's not going to be because of him, okay? He's not going to be the beast of Revelation chapter 13. I'm very confident of that. Everybody who's claiming he is, it's speculation, and they don't have a leg to stand on. I don't think he's going to completely dismantle Catholicism. I don't think that he's going to I don't think he's going to appoint the first female cardinal. I don't think he's going to declare gay marriage to be accepted in Catholicism. He's probably not going to make abortion allowed under Catholicism. He's not going to do any of that. What he will do is he will pay lip service to the left sometimes and not really do anything significant for conservative values, okay? I think that's about what we're going to get. If it's going to be one way or the other, he's probably more than likely, and once again, I could be completely wrong. We may look back in 3 years and say, wow, he is conservative as conservative gets. But more than likely, I think he's going to be pretty much not very notable. Pope Francis was not very notable for anything specific other than just pushing things progressively to the left to some degree. That's how he's going to be remembered by most people. This will probably be a little bit more of the same. The fact that he's young, it could have some more lasting ramifications because Pope Francis was, I can't remember, he's been Pope for what, over a decade? Because I was pretty young, I think, when I saw the news coverage of the new Pope being appointed. Now, what's going to be really interesting to me, and I want to talk about this now, because this is almost more interesting, more so than like who the Pope is exactly, is going to be how conservative Catholics handle the Pope. I have talked about Matt Walsh a couple times. Matt Walsh is a conservative figure for the Daily Wire. He does have his own show. He's pretty funny a lot of times. He is Catholic, okay? Here's Matt Walsh's statement on the matter of the new pope, okay? Let's go ahead and look at what he has to say, because Matt Walsh is as conservative gets, okay? He really is. So here's Matt Walsh. Says, if you aren't Catholic, then you don't believe that this pope was elected through the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So you'll troll through his Twitter feed and analyze his selection through a modern political lens, as if he was just elected to a seat in the U.S. Senate rather than the chair of St. Peter. So first of all, yeah, that's probably true. So no, I do not think the Pope was elected through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, okay? If the Holy Spirit was guiding the cardinals of the Catholic Church, I don't think they would be so bad on their theology, okay? The fact that there is such an elevation of Mary, much more than what Scripture ever gives, the idea of confessions to priests, and apostolic succession, the authority of Peter being transferred to someone else, we don't see that. I saw Ryan's comment just a minute ago on this, and he said, do you think? Trying to read his comment. Do you think that he knows about Paul, or wonder if he knows about Paul? No, Catholicism is going to have no concept of the mystery. They're going to have no concept of Paul's unique apostleship in the age of grace we live in today. They're not going to have that idea at all in their head. So yeah, I agree with that part. I don't think that the Holy Spirit was guiding the cardinals to select the Pope. Because, what does that imply? Would the Holy Spirit guide the cardinals to select Pope Francis? Would all the good that he did? And then there would be some say, well, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Sometimes appointing a liberal pope is the strange and mysterious ways that God works in the world. Nah. I think that's doing a lot of taking from the Old Testament and putting yourselves in that setting and that dispensation. So yeah, I think you should go through his Twitter feed and see what he has to say. That probably gives you a good idea of his various values. Okay? Now, here's what Matt Walsh says to Catholics. If you are a believing Catholic, then you do or should believe that his election is ordained by God. It's Catholic view. He is the head of the Catholic Church, the highest priest in the church. You view it through the lens of 2,000 years of church history. That is interesting, the appeal to church history there. The Catholic Church has changed a lot over 2,000 years, and they've managed to maintain some degree of continuity. Some degree. How much of it really is the same as what it once was? It's not like the Pope's been in the Vatican for 2,000 years. The Vatican's a new thing. So, by all measurements of time. So, I don't know. You can claim succession there. It's been preserved for 2,000 years, but what Catholicism is today is nothing like what it was back in the Holy Roman Empire. And a good Catholic wants the Holy Roman Empire to come back. I've heard Michael Knowles say as much. Like, it's their desire for the Holy Roman Empire to essentially be reestablished, and that's not what Catholicism is today. Okay, yeah, go ahead. You can claim that you've got the 2,000 years of continuity and the eternal will of the Almighty God. From that perspective, playing the gotcha game with old tweets is silly and bizarre. This, I think, is the blind spot for Catholics, because Matt Walsh is very good. Matt Walsh is very good on analyzing a lot of political matters. He is. He has a great mind for it, great eye. If this was anybody else, anybody other than the Pope, if it was a broadcaster, an athlete, a dog catcher, Matt Walsh would make note of the politically charged tweets of whoever. Okay? He would. Because it is telling. It tells what your values are. He does have, and other Catholics have it as well. Michael Knowles has it. And I enjoy both of them. They have a blind spot for the Pope because their theology requires it to a degree. Their theology demands that they treat the Pope with kid gloves. Michael Knowles always did it with Pope Francis. Pope Francis could come out and say the most progressive thing, really seeming to undermine all the values of Catholicism, and Michael Knowles would find a way to defend Papa Francesco, all right, as he would call him. Matt Walsh, I think you do need to realize that the positions that Pope Leo XIV has taken, based upon his Twitter feed, is not what we would call a strong supporter of what conservatism is in America right now, okay? With Trump being in the White House, a push for strong borders, things of that nature, okay? Just plain and simple. Your bias, your theological assumptions that he has been selected by God, it's causing you to be blind to the issue. What's interesting to me, though, is Michael Knowles is going to then look back on Pope Francis, and he may be a little bit more critical. Matt Walsh may look back on Pope Francis and be a little bit more critical. But in the meantime, they're just going to defend and ignore a lot of what is right in front of them. And so he finishes in his post, "This is why any conversation about the Pope on this site is destined to be disjointed, confused, and ultimately useless." I don't think so. I think most of the time, the chickens will come home to roost. I don't think, Matt, that Cardinal Pravat being elected to be Pope Leo XIV suddenly converted him to deep conservative and traditional values. Unless he has a great conversion experience while he's in the Vatican, I think what you see is what you get. And you can expect to see some more Pope Francis type stuff. Before we move on and leave the subject of the Pope, there is an article here on Christian Post if you did want to give you a brief rundown. I don't know it's going to be that helpful, but 5 things to know about Pope Leo XIV. He's the first American pope. He's spent considerable times in Latin America. Once again, I'm pretty sure he has dual citizenship there. And so, somewhat American. He opposes female deacons, has mixed views on LGBT issues. The Christian Post is a more conservative website, so they'll be honest there. So he seems to not, kind of like Pope Francis, not very strong on the matter. He has unclear position on blessings for same-sex couples. And there's some ad there. Next one, he's expressed concern about Trump's immigration policies, which we already talked about. And then finally, he's faced allegations of not responding adequately to sex abuse allegations. So, I know that there's many of you that could make some Catholic jokes at this point, okay, but just try to restrain yourselves. The possibility of Prevost becoming Pope began to emerge last week. The correspondence maintains that during his tenure as Bishop of Chiclayo, the future Pope took no action against a priest who allegedly sexually assaulted 3 minors. The article also maintained that the Diocese of Chiclayo, I don't know how you say it, paid $150,000 to abuse victims who accused Cardinal Prevost of covering up the abuse. I mean, that's not great. Not a great look there. He's also faced criticism after reports surfacing alleging that a priest convicted of engaging in sexual misconduct with minors was allowed to stay at a priory located near an elementary school during his tenure. So, a little bit of interesting history there. So, not great. Let me read some of your comments, though, to see what you think. Alan said Trump Pope pick. As in, like, Trump picked this one. I was hoping there for a little bit that Trump may be the next Pope. That would be interesting. Alan says, what happened to the vow of poverty? Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. The wealth of the Vatican doesn't count, I suppose. Neil says Francis put Leo where he was in the Catholic hierarchy to preserve Francis's legacy. That's very possible, and he could turn out to just be Pope Francis 2.0. Jerry says, I heard a conservative Catholic commentator say that Leo is far left-leaning. It's entirely possible. Entirely possible. Unfortunately, some Catholics are going to have a blind spot for it because, hey, it's their Pope after all. Neil says Leo has already had hands dirty, with the sexual abuse scandals. Ryan adds, well, I wonder if he knows about Paul. Yep, we already talked about that one. Neil notes they support evolution in Catholicism. Yeah, I've noticed that the Catholics are not real strong on just a literal view of Genesis 1. That they seem to be kind of wishy-washy about the matter. They don't really care that much. Ryan notes that he agrees he's not the beast. Yeah, there's going to be some that say it, though, because he's the first American Pope. Also from Neil, I have a very difficult time with conservatives aligning with Catholicism. Yeah, I mean, a traditional Catholic view is going to be conservative in matters of marriage. The annulment stuff is interesting, but marriage, family, abortion, things like that. But there's some problematic things that come along with it, especially if you have a left-leaning pope. Dr. Campbell, former Catholic, not to out you like that, but any thoughts on why this particular man was chosen for pope? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation. I think ultimately anybody we could give our ideas. He seemed to be a strong defender of Pope Francis. If the support for Pope Francis amongst the cardinals is strong, or was strong now that he's passed, then this could be a statement that the cardinals are behind and support what Pope Francis did, and they wanted to continue in that. That's kind of what some of the discussion's been here. It's almost like Francis had his pick. That's who he wanted. The matter of him being American maybe has some political factors. Maybe to have an American pope speaking out against America, possibly if he's going to lean into leftism, because when Pope Francis, would speak out against America, well, he's not American. All right, we don't care what he thinks. Americans hasn't cared what any country thinks ever since 1776. Right? We don't care what your country thinks. So maybe the fact that he is American, Pope Leo XIV, is somewhat of a way to hopefully have influence on American politics, maybe even American Catholicism. I mean, if we really wanted to start speculating, putting on the hat and whatever, perhaps the Vatican realizes, hey, there is a divide between the Catholic Church internationally versus what's going on over there in America. Because what we're seeing over in America is a turn to traditionalism, a rejection of really a lot of what Pope Francis did. And so maybe they're trying to nip that in the bud. Maybe they're trying to get the American Catholic Church to get in line, okay? Get in order with what the Vatican wants as well as everything else. And so maybe they're trying to get an American pope in to hopefully, sway them. Because, hey, if there is somehow a schism, a divide between international Catholicism, the Vatican, and Western values of Catholicism, America. Maybe you could argue a little bit in like Britain, possibly, in some of those places. I don't know. But there's some interesting speculation there. He definitely came out of the blue, like Ken said. So there is that, okay? Like I said, the Pope is not the Antichrist, so that's the big thing I wanted to address. All right, here is the most ridiculous story of the day, okay? The most ridiculous story. I don't even know how to start it, but it's absurd. And I'm just going to read the article to you. Once again, this is coming from the Daily Wire. Let's read the article and then let's talk about it, because this is so ridiculous. But you know what? I feel like I have to say something about it, okay? So here we go. HBO's The Last of Us trashed for going woke. Female character says she's gonna be a dad. There's the character right there. All right, so let me get you caught up on the culture if you don't know. There was a video game called The Last of Us. It's a zombie video game. I never played it, but anyways. Zombie video game, very, very popular. It's got a character, a guy named Joel, who saves a girl, zombies, and all that stuff, right? And it was well received, did very well. The second game, the sequel to the game, The Last of Us 2, basically decided to go full woke. So the main character from the first game, I'm going to spoil it for you because none of y'all care. The main character from the first game gets murdered, right? Gets killed. So you play as this main character, you get attached to him. He's this, strong, capable leader, older guy, right? Grown man anyways. And he's killed. And then you play the rest of the game as a little girl, essentially like a teenage girl. And this teenage girl is going to seek out revenge because it, killed her father figure. The bad guy did. The bad guy was also a girl, but is extremely strong and looks like she's on steroids, but somehow it's in an apocalyptic zombie world. Like, how does that even work? So the second game, and I've got all this from just listening to people talk about it. It turns out that she, the main character, the girl, is a lesbian. Bringing up all sorts of great family things on today's show. She's a lesbian, and she has, her interest. Well, the other girl that she's interested in is someone who use some baseball, like a switch hitter, if you will, right? Because this is awkward talking about such weird things. So here's what happens in an episode of The Last of Us, playing on HBO, which is its first season was pretty popular. Quite a few people watched it. So here's what happens. In the fourth episode, I'm going to read the article here. Ellie, played by the actress Bella Ramsey, that's her right here, Bella Ramsey, learns that her love interest, Dina, and that's her love interest, who is portrayed as, bisexual, is 3 months pregnant. Okay? So that's the story. So this non-biblical couple here, one of them is expecting a baby. Now, obviously, biology is still a thing, and the order of creation and God's natural order is still a thing. So this girl had to have gotten pregnant somehow. And so there was a third party involved, a man, of course, obviously. So here's the whole picture here, okay? This is a real movie scene on like HBO's major show, right? Primetime show. So this girl tells another girl that she is expecting, okay? As a result of a relationship with this guy who's a third party here. The main character of the show, who is a girl, not the one that's pregnant, but just a girl with no role in the involvement of that child being conceived, says to her love interest, who was a girl, see how absurd the story is? Her response is this: so we're having a baby. The girl who has no involvement in the relationship between the two people that actually did conceive a child says, we're having a baby. And then she says, I'm going to be a dad. The girl, who is the third wheel to this relationship over here that resulted in a child, because that's actually a man and a woman, because that's how biology and God's order of creation works. This girl over here says, I'm gonna be a dad. Now, this show has been full of like woke signaling. There's been pride flags in it. There's this town they go to, and it's a commune, and so they say they're communist, and then this the main character, the girl, says, wow, so communism really does work. It's a complete and total just liberal, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, activism, propaganda, you name it. But it's in a major TV show that this teenage girl says, I'm going to be a dad. Please try to show me any more evidence that we need to verifiably prove that our culture is in decline. This is what progressivism gets you, okay? Conservative masculine values gave you James Arness as Matt Dillon riding the countryside, fighting bad guys, okay? And good prevailing. That's what you had back then, all right? It was the rifleman always doing what's right no matter what, and instilling good values in his son. That's what conservatism brought you. Now, you could argue that Hollywood wasn't all that conservative back then because there was all the Hollywood parties and shenanigans going. Sure, but what were they portraying? Okay? What were they actually promoting to the public? That's what American Western values gave you. Okay? It's those kind of amazing things. What happened when progressivism got hold? Okay? What is the result of the liberals getting to decide the narratives and write the stories? What did you get? You get this. This absolute, I don't know, a joke. Because there's no one that believes it. But it's almost parody. You would think it's a parody. Like this would be Babylon Bee type stuff. This just proves that Western civilization can build, and then degenerate, transgressive, progressive ideology that rejects God's order of creation results in a teenage girl who has no affiliation to anything involving the conception of a child declaring, unrelated at all, that she is the dad of a child. She, a girl, is a dad. We don't even know what a dad is anymore. We don't even know what a couple, a marriage, the conceiving of a child. We don't know what a child is. Goodness gracious. Folks, we can win. All right? We really can. We can win on this cultural matter, because this is the conclusion, okay? This is what progressivism gets you. Now, let me lead it into theology for a moment. Just as that was extremely incoherent, what I just told you about this show, The Last of Us, there is equally incoherent theology going on in churches, okay? Just as incoherent, just as absurd, all right? If we can not be passive and really make every effort to stand for sound doctrine, get people to hear it, persuade people through biblical teaching, we can also win, okay? At the end of the day, you can present sound arguments, common sense, good reasoning, proper judgment, And we can, I think, do a lot of good. So the more that progressivism and silly evangelicalism and Calvinism, all those silly different things continue to lead into more absurdity, let's hopefully do our due diligence so that we can prevail. All right, I don't have any article for you on the matter, but Trump is getting deals done. He recently signed a deal with the UK. It's supposed to be a really good deal. There's other countries he's saying that's on the rise. Here's the thing. It was very frustrating to me to see so many conservatives immediately bail on Trump because, oh my goodness, the stock market looked bad. Oh my goodness, there's a tariff war. Oh my goodness this. Oh my goodness that. You just worked to get this guy in office, and now you're panicking, okay? Trump said, don't be a panicking. Just let the man do his job and quit worrying about it for just a little bit. Everybody's an expert. Everybody thinks they know what's going on. That's why I said with the whole tariff thing, I don't know entirely what the proper answer is. I'm not a economics trading expert. Just how about we wait and see? That was my thoughts. To a degree, there's going to be some of us who probably wish that Trump would have leaned into tariffs more and not used them as leverage, but just used them. Why are we so quick to panic? Let it be a lesson learned. Like, let's let Trump do the job that we elected him for and just see what happens. I think we'd be much better off than just automatically assuming that we know what's best. Okay? So I'm mostly talking to some of the major conservative figures that made so much of the panicking claims and whatnot. All right, folks. There's something I've got to do. On Tuesday, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. We look upon Dr. White, fondly. What a great source of entertainment. Living out there in the mountains, being out in the sun, probably too much. Who knows what he's finding over there that the hippies gave him. But I just made a simple statement of fact, okay? That Shields and Arrows is the best broadcast going on right now. That, yeah, he may have helped get me started, helped me learn a lot, even gave me some of the technology know-how. His son helped me out a lot. Nathan and I are good friends. Nathan and I are partnering up, and eventually he's going to work for me. But the truth is, we got to be honest about the matter, okay? Here's what happened, okay? A man can do his own demise. The man who builds the horse and buggy system, the harness, the pull, and the wheels, all of it, the man can construct the carriage. And then the same man can produce the locomotive and put himself out of business. And this is what we have here, folks. It is time, all right, to settle the matter. And it's nothing against Dr. White. He's great, great source of entertainment and amusement. But we got to be honest here, okay? The future's now. And the younger model is here. And we are unapologetically taking over the world. So what I've got to do is I've got to take you through the ramblings of a gentleman, some would say an older gentleman, making all sorts of claims because he is trying to deny the clear truth that we're the better program. So here we go. We're going to respond to Dr. Randy White. We're going to listen to what he has to say on his Tuesday edition of Ask the Theologian. Listen to the false claims that he makes, and what you're listening to is the last clingings of a gentleman who knows that he has trained his protege too well. And time's coming for him. All right, here we go.
Who is trying in his program to come up with some conclusion, and he couldn't today. And so, you know, he was begging you all to go out and lie just to make his feelings better. Go watch that, you know, go watch that Geico commercial about Mamby-Pamby Land, you jackwagon. Sorry, did I offend you? You want a Kleenex? There, now you got to fix the camera, Luca.
Oh, Dr. White, Dr. White, Dr. White. You misunderstand me. I wasn't trying to come up with a conclusion. We've had these discussions. I've tried to tell him before in just personal meetings. I don't want to make it a public matter. I don't want to embarrass him. I've tried to tell him, look, it's not a good look here. I mean, your protege now is surpassing you. He's more witty, he's funnier, he's got hair. And it's just not good for me to continue to be making you look bad. What you got to do is when it's time, the racehorse has to go out to pasture. Plain and simple. Even Secretariat retired. But you know what? Hey, Dr. White, let me use this analogy for you. All the horses in the Kentucky Derby are descendants of Secretariat. You should be happy. Go out, enjoy the pasture, eat the grass, eat the oats, and just take it easy. Enjoy the last few months or so you got. It's not anything personal, but on a degree it is. It actually is personal because I care about you. And I feel bad making you look bad day after day after day. So it's not trying to preserve my ego. I'm honestly trying to protect you. I'm trying to help you because you've done a lot of good. Really quite impressive. Considering you live out there in the mountains and you got your little church and you talk about birds sometimes when you get off in the weeds and rambling and whatnot. So all things considered, it's quite impressive. But it's like an athlete who played 2 seasons too many. You know, if he could have retired before, he'd have been remembered as one of the greats. But now all people are just going to remember is, hey, remember that player that started playing and basically ended the career of the other guy? Because he was just so much better. So, with that being said, that's me just having to be completely ruthless and just tell it like it is. All right, now for anybody who is new and has no idea what's going on, Dr. White is our good friend. He has mentored me for, 6 years now on theology and studying the Bible. And yeah, I know, I milked the cow a little too long. I had to lean into it, Paul, just a little bit. I was hoping he would be on today. I don't know where he is. He's probably doing something more important, like working on his systematic theology book, which you do need to go to the Branson conference that he will be hosting. It'll be a great time. So you need to be there. And I'll be there listening to his teaching. So we have an ongoing, it's all good and fun, back and forth. He gives me a hard time. I give him a hard time. And it's amusing. The things that we do for your entertainment, okay? So I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you like the ridiculousness of the whole thing. I don't have tissues. I know that you, Dr. White, had tissues because I guess you cry sometimes or something. I don't cry. But if I had tissues, all I got is this mug. I guess I could just haul off and throw the mug at the camera, but I throw really hard and I would probably break the camera. And so that wouldn't do good, If I was just not good at throwing and only had tissues, then maybe I could do it, but I'm not going to risk it. All right, so we've reached a new low in Shields and Arrows. creating this manufactured fake rivalry between us and Dr. White. So I hope that you liked it. Hope you had fun with it. And be sure at 11:30 Central Time, 10:30 Mountain Time, Dr. White's show, Shields and Arrows, is not his, that's mine. Ask the Theologian is Dr. White's program. Go and he'll answer all your theology questions. And the truth is, if you wonder how I have learned, at least to some degree, to answer questions, it's because I've listened to him answer theology questions for 6 years now. And if you listen to him answer theology questions for 6 years, you start to pick up on a few things. And so you can credit him for me learning to be a right divider, as well as a lot of my help from my parents as well. So with all that being said, I really do appreciate our good friend, Dr. Randy White. Go check him out. And that's going to do it for today's program and broadcast. I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you have a good weekend. I am not going to be teaching on Sunday. I'm sorry. It's my wife and my anniversary. So we're going to take the weekend off. But I'll be back on Monday, and then we'll have our regular programming from there. We'll also be starting a new series on Sunday morning, so be getting ready for that. Hopefully you will enjoy it. So with that, Dr. White, hope you're watching. Appreciate you. All right. Y'all have a great rest of your Friday weekend. That's way too loud. I apologize. Start to blow out your eardrums there. That's the problem when you're doing all of your own stuff. So I hope I didn't just completely give you hearing loss. So thank you all so much. We will talk to all of you later. Have a good rest of your Friday.